y'all? What's up? What's up? This is Wax. It is episode 97 of Wax's podcast on what is National Podcast Day. I didn't even know that until just now. I saw on Twitter that today is National Podcast Day. I don't know how many years that's been happening. I'm assuming this is probably like the bicentennial anniversary of National Podcast Day. Probably started by Thomas Jefferson, the Jefferson podcast that he used to put out. Of course, his podcast was... How would you do a podcast back in whatever, the 17 or 1800s? I guess you just wrote it on a piece of paper and had to give it to a bunch of people that went around to people's doors and sang it like those guys that sing Valentine's Day songs door to door. Remember those people? Singograms? Something like that. And, it was a lot more complicated back then, a lot more expensive to release a podcast, but they did it. The founding fathers, they would spare no expense to make their words heard by the masses, and I don't either. I don't spare an expense. I don't spare an expense, whether it be monetarily, because I don't really make any money off this podcast. I don't do any advertising or anything like that. I think I said on a previous podcast, I'm like just barely under the amount of downloads you need to get to do advertising and make money on this podcast. That said, if you want to support the podcast, if you go to my website, wax.com.com/podcast, or I don't even know if it's /podcast, but if you just click on podcast, there's a link to Amazon.com. And if you planned on buying something on Amazon.com and click that to get there, I get like 1 cent or some shit like that, and it goes to my brother to buy diapers. So that's what's going on with that. He probably won't even need to buy diapers soon, as kids are just about goddamn potty trained. But I could say it's to buy food, shelter, things like that. Even though he's doing really well for himself right now, he actually just got a raise today. Congratulations to my brother, Herbal T. He just got a raise at his job today. So if you're bored listening to this right now, go to his Twitter, @Herbal T is great, and congratulate. Don't hate on Herbal T is great. Congratulate, because his fate was that he went from whatever to whatever 8. I don't even know what the numbers were. So hopefully it rhymed with an 8. Yeah, so it's National Podcast Day. And I was kidding when I said I just found out about it today. I've actually known about it for many, many years, and I've been planning this podcast all year to commemorate National Podcast Day. So I have a plethora of topics that I want to talk about relating to the day. I want to talk to you about all the events that I went to today. All the podcasters worldwide got together at several different places today, and I was there at all of them due to the fact that I'm a quote-unquote podcaster. I actually don't know many other people that do podcasts. I've been doing mine for a while. If I did it every week, I'd probably have 3 times as many episodes as I do now. But this is episode 97, so I'm getting close. I'm getting close to that 100 mark, y'all. That centennial podcast, 100 hours of podcasting, straight to your fucking face. Straight to your face via your ears. Unless you put your headphones on your eyes and have a different kind of way of hearing than most human beings do because you were born different. Yeah, I'm doing this podcast in spite of the fact that, I haven't really been doing too good this week. I've been kind of down in the dumps. Been a little bit depressed, man. I don't know what it is, but something with me where ever since I was, not since I was a little kid, but maybe since I was in my early 20s or something, like, I kind of go through these little waves where I just can't get out of the dumps. And it always is related to something, and whatever little issues I have going on, it inflates and inflates and inflates in my head, and I can't get it out. And I make big deals out of small deals, and I'm just gonna get through it because it's podcast day, y'all. It's fucking National Podcast Day. Speaking of being down in the dumps, there was something that cheered me up this morning. And it's cheered me up several times. Well, a lot of other, I don't always need to be cheered up. Sometimes I'm a cheery motherfucker myself. But this morning, I went to the store to get coffee creamer. And actually, by the way, I had never gotten the Dunkin' Donuts kind of coffee creamer before. I have always liked Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I've raved about it on this podcast before, I would imagine. Not popular out here in California. There are a couple of them now. They creep up. It's such a fucking... Southern California is such a transplant area, whether it be San Diego or Los Angeles or anywhere in between. And whenever there's something that everybody from the East Coast is like, yeah, man, I love the weather out here, but I can't believe they don't fucking have Chick-fil-A out here. I can't believe they don't have fucking Dunkin' Donuts. It's like there's so much other good shit they have here that they don't have out there. Can't you fucking make the trade without complaining about Chick-fil-A or Dunkin' Donuts? That said, because this is such a place where there's so many transplants, anything like that, whether it be Chick-fil-A or Dunkin' Donuts, they always end up bringing them out here. And eventually there's 2, then there's 3, then there's 10. Now you can't go anywhere without hitting a Chick-fil-A, and they're starting to bring Dunkin' Donuts out here. And I got the fucking coffee creamer, the Dunkin' Donuts coffee creamer, and I liked the fact that the flavor was cream and sugar. That's what it's supposed to be, right? It's not vanilla. It's not hazelnut. It's not cookies and cream. The flavor was cream and sugar, and I liked that. So I picked it up, and I was bringing it home. And there's this guy that lives in my building. He's probably about 65. He's a black dude. He's kind of like an older dude, but he kind of has a young vibe to him. He's always blasting music. He's always blasting like Earth, Wind, and Fire. On Sunday, he blasts really, really loud gospel music. It's cool. He's a guy he's a cheery guy, and the reason I say that, the funny attribute that he has is whenever I walk by him and he says, "What's up?" he always makes a comment on whatever I have. Like this morning, for example, I had a coffee creamer in my hand, and he was like, "Yeah, coffee, huh?" And he always says shit like that. Every time I walk into my house with something, like if I have a 6-pack of beer, like, "Ho, ho, ho, drinking some beers tonight, huh?" He always says, "huh?" at the end of it. "Making some coffee, huh?" And no matter what kind of mood I was in this morning, I was cheered up for that 5 seconds, and I was like, man, I wish I could have the fucking, the cheeriness that he always has. And like I said, he listens to gospel music every Sunday, treats it like gives himself to the Lord on Sundays. And maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to find a Lord and Savior type of figure. Because yeah, I mean, maybe that would make me happier. Maybe that would make me view life in a more positive way in general. I don't know. But I digress. Did I have anything else? I had one thing written down. It's not that great of a story. A friend of mine, I'm not even going to fucking tell that story. Not even going to tell it. Fuck, man, I don't have shit this week. Let me stop for a second and see if I can just think of some shit to talk about. Gonna do the podcast a little differently today, y'all. I'm just gonna find something on the internet and then just talk about it for like a second, then stop, then find something else on the internet and then talk about it for a second and stop. Politics. Had a conversation with a friend earlier in the week. Interesting thing about politics this year that we had talked about is people don't need money. The corporate donor thing, because of the way that Facebook works and the way that virality works, in that it's free. If the people fucking believe it, the people share it, and then everybody finds out about it, whereas nobody gives a fuck about your TV and radio ads as much anymore. It's much bigger of a deal if you just put out something yourself and make it go viral on Facebook. So it's actually interesting this year that people on the fringe like Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders are actually doing well. I mean, we all know Donald Trump has a shitload of money, and I'm sure Bernie Sanders has raised a bunch too. I mean, they got to pay for the travel, they got to pay for the buses, the flights, and everywhere they got to go, and fucking blah, 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 blah. But, right now, people are really starting to see through the bullshit of politics. I mean, people have seen through it for a while, but nobody can break in because you have to have all this corporate funded money to even be in the race. And now it's like, if you got a message that resonates with people, you don't need it. So it's actually a really, really interesting year it's a really, really interesting presidential election year. That said, I never ever pay attention to it and don't care about it. The lady Kim Davis in Missouri, who was denying gay people marriage licenses because she worked at the courthouse or wherever you go to get marriage licenses. What the fuck? And yeah, I've come to find out that she's been like divorced like 3 or 4 times and has cheated on her husband. And if you want to go for the sanctity of marriage and you want to talk about how important it is to have a marriage between a man and a woman, how come you can't even fucking uphold the shit for yourself in a regular ass marriage? And how come you're not fighting against the show The Bachelor, which shits on the sanctity of marriage as well? You know what? You can kiss my ass. How can the two phrases, you already know, and you know what I'm saying, exist in hip hop? If you're constantly asking somebody if they know what you're saying, but at the same time you're always telling them you already know what I'm saying, aren't you being a little aren't you being a little contradictory? You can kiss my ass. How come beautiful women that have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram that have those followers clearly because they're hot and they post pictures where their tits are hanging out and their ass is showing and they're at the gym working out and they have perfect bodies and pretty faces? How come they're always the ones that throw in these occasional posts where it's like, it doesn't matter what you look like, it's your personality and what's on the inside? How would you know what it's like? You live in a different world than people who don't look like you. A completely different world. Everybody treats you differently. You might think you have a good personality because people are constantly pretending to be interested in you. I'm keep stuttering, but so what? You can kiss my ass. I don't know if I've talked about the following topic on the podcast yet or not, but this is something I think about every time I go into Best Buy. Every other time that I go into Best Buy, because I can't think of a great example. I think Verizon does this shit too. But there's something fucking insidious and devious and just kind of evil about the concept of the mail-in rebate. They're like, this TV is $500. But it's actually $400 because you buy for $500 and then you mail in the mail-in rebate and we send you $100 back. And they're just counting on the irresponsibility of people to not send the money, to not send the rebate back. And I'm sure there's people that are irresponsible and don't do it. And I guess maybe some of the people that don't do it are actually the people that have the most money and are just busy and it's not worth their time to get the $100 back. That said, you can kiss my ass. Let's talk about purists. We talk about purists when it comes to hip hop a lot. Hip hop purists, pure hip hop, real hip hop. What I want to talk about is purists in the Mexican food world. Now, I lived in Southern California for like 8 years now, and I love Mexican food. I love authentic street tacos that you get at the most local of local places. I've been to Mexico many times. I've eaten street tacos in Tijuana at places that are regarded as some of the best street taco places in the world. That being said, I grew up in Maryland. Where I'm from in Maryland, there is no real Mexican food. I was raised to believe that a taco is essentially a Dorito shaped into a U without any powdered flavoring on it, stuffed with ground beef, tomato, and some bullshit-ass cheddar cheese, maybe some lettuce. I mean, it's up to you because the way it's served is not directly to you how you should eat it as is, with the exception of a possible red and or green sauce. It's served in a way that you kind of make it yourself. There's the shell. There's a tray of beef. There's some other things, maybe some onions, some lettuce, some tomatoes, maybe some sour cream, maybe some cheese, whatever it is. Some bullshit paste picante salsa. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with liking those tacos. There's nothing wrong with liking Chipotle. I'm not saying that when I like a taco, I like it any better than an actual authentic Mexican taco. I'm just saying that there's two different kinds of food, and I like both of them. Just because I like Chipotle and it's some fucking corporate bullshit Americanized burrito, as some people would like to say, doesn't mean I don't like a real Mexican burrito from an authentic place too. Can I like two different things? Am I not allowed to like sushi and then also fried clams? Oh, you can kiss my ass. All right, I think that's it for that, y'all. The topics that I just discussed, I don't even remember what they were because I just kind of fucking hit stop and then start again and started ranting about something new. I'm not saying they were genius. I'm not saying they were poignant. I'm not even saying they were relevant to anything. They're pretty standard surface areas of life. Sometimes I feel like a hypocrite, man, because I hear a lot of conversations. Like last night I was at a bar. I wasn't at the bar just being an alcoholic like you probably think I am. I actually did an open mic comedy night last night. I went to a place called Flappers in Burbank. And, you know, sometimes when you go to an open mic doing comedy, you're at a bar by yourself. You know, I don't always go with a person. I just go by myself. And it's kind of nice because you got kind of like a little bit of intimidation because nobody's there to support you. But also, like, you have the freedom to say whatever you want and the freedom to just get totally embarrassed in front of a bunch of people. And that's pretty much what I did last night. I don't think one person laughed at shit that I said. I didn't have nothing prepared. I just went up there and talked about some stuff I was thinking about. It wasn't as terrible as what you just heard and wasn't as non-poignant as what you just heard, but I just heard next to me was a group of people that weren't there for the open mic. They were actually there because they had just seen a show, and they were like just like beautiful, really good-looking Hollywood type people. They were middle-aged. They're probably like 45, and I just overheard their conversations and just the surface levelness of it. Maybe it was because I was in a funk too last night and just kind of feeling weird and depressed and thinking about much deeper things as far as life and the reason to be living and why are we all here and things that, you know, we all contemplate when we're alone. But the surface level subjects that they were touching upon in their conversation just kind of disgusted me. And, you know, I just made a rant about tacos and whatever I talked about before. So maybe I'm a little bit hypocritical, man. But we all have to be in that matrix level of the world. We all exist within this, you know, the way the world is set up. You get your job, you fucking go about your business. We all go to restaurants, we go to the grocery store, we have to cook food at home, we all take shits in the toilet, we all take showers and kind of wear deodorant and, you know what I mean? Like, might go to IKEA here and there and take care of our families, and we might have to buy have a flat tire or have car problems or have to deal with people at the DMV or car insurance people. All this bullshit that's set up. I'm basically saying that I feel like there's a discrepancy. There's a line. In my mind, there's a line, and it's a really zigzagged line because some things are more important than others. But there's like a line between like what human beings have kind of made us think is real and what's actually real. And I'm just kind of get annoyed with people talking about too much of the surface level stuff. But that being said, it's a little hypocritical to do so because we all have to live within this world. You know, unless you're that guy that's real popular on YouTube and Facebook that like is in New York with the crazy hair and beard that just talks about how we're made out of love or whatever and just runs around and with a sign on his back, or unless you're that guy, or you're like the guy that moves to Montana and just like starts a fucking soybean field and lives by himself or with his family and that's it, and you fucking live off the land. Unless like you really putting your money where your mouth is, it's kind of like, hey man, you know, you eat tacos too just like the rest of us. You watch TV, you fucking check whatever you know what I'm saying. I don't even know. You probably don't because I don't even know what I'm saying, but you already know. Anyway, I think I might have to do some questions and shout outs. Surprisingly enough, I'm actually really, really, really caught up on the emails, y'all. I think that I'm up to like 4 or 5 days ago, as far as like how caught up I am on the email. So if you want me to answer your shit on the podcast, if you got something to say, if you want to make fun of me, if you want to talk some shit, I know this hasn't been the greatest podcast, but hey, man, last week was good. Last week was pretty good. Last week was great, right? So if you have anything to say, if you have any questions to ask, if you want advice about life, if you want to ask about relationships, if you want to ask about living your dreams or moving away, or like the kind of people, if you think I have anything to bring to the table, beatsforwax@gmail.com, beatsforwax@gmail.com. Obviously, I set up that email so people can send me beats. If you want to send me beats, that's fine to do that too. I've actually got some really good ones recently. Yeah, so if you don't want to, though, you can kiss my ass! All right, like I said, I'm real caught up on these emails right now, so like send me some more shit so next week I'm not like, here's the shout-outs, Tim and Jim. But anyway, here's the shout-outs for this weekend. We got a shout-out to Dominic O, who recommends the short YouTube documentary called The Story of Stuff. And I've actually watched that before. I watched a little piece of it when he sent it, but I realized I had watched it before. And I like documentaries like that. It's short and to the point, and it's good for everybody. It's good for the general public because it's something you can share with other people. It's like 20 minutes long. And it's really just basically talking about how as humans we pretty much are raping the land, man. It goes through the process of what it takes to make a product. Like, let's say, I mean, one of the worst examples being like stuff that you throw out real fast, like a water bottle, or all the bullshit that they use at a fast food restaurant, like the bag, the styrofoam, the container, the food itself. And it just goes from production to transportation to consumption to throwing it away and then to where it goes. And it just shows you that, like, we're living unsustainably. I mean, if you don't realize that by now, there's a lot of information out there that shows that the human population is basically just, I mean, it's really sad. I'm trying not to watch shit like this anymore because I'm really torn between the notion that humans are like basically a cancer on the earth. I'm torn between that and this whole thing where like we also feel joy and we also love each other, and there's a lot of things that are really loving and nice and great in the world. And I think I'm going to try to stop watching those kind of documentaries that really paint a picture of human beings as a negative thing, But there's really no denying it, If you look at the rise in population and what we're doing to the earth, if you look at that over a really, really long period of time, like if you watch that cosmic second that Carl Sagan used to talk about, I'm sure I brought it up on the podcast before, but Carl Sagan used to do this piece. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson Reed did it on the Cosmos series. If you look at the entire history of the earth, that length of time, if you equated that length of time to a year, like the amount of time that Earth has been here, the amount of times human beings have been on Earth is if, keep in mind that the whole thing's a year. Human beings have been on this Earth the last second of the year. So on December 31st at 11:59 p.m. and 59 seconds, that second right there is how long human beings have been on the earth. And if you look at what we've done to the earth and you look at how we sucked out all the oil, if you looked at how we fucked up the thing, if you looked at how there's millions and millions and billions of us now, you could say that we're in the late stages of cancer. It looks like the work, though, if you fly over the earth and look at cities and shit, it looks like a scab or something. It just looks like we're fucking it up. And you fly over an oil field and you see these little just fucking look mosquitoes sucking shit out of there. Like now we ran out of that and we're looking for new shit to suck out, and it's just throwing. But it ain't rocket science. But the fact is that I have to live my life, And am I gonna fucking sit here and watch these kind of videos and live in misery and think that I'm one of those negative contributors, or am I gonna be one of those few people that just does something positive and lives their life in a happy way? Because we're all gonna die anyway. So what does it matter in the long term? If you can't, what can you do? There's 9 billion. What is it, 9 billion people? You can't change that shit. I got that song out right now, One Man Can Change the World. Like, how much can one man really change the world? Like, you might change it a little bit, but like if you look back in history, a couple thousand years, like we only remember a couple people from a long time ago. And to say that they changed the world is they might have changed the way some people think. They might have like changed the way that human beings are doing shit, but they're not really changing the outcome of the earth. You know, a better way to change it would be that they changed the opinions of a lot of human beings. They definitely didn't change the world. Fuck, man. We got Tara M. Tara M recommends Lil Dicky. Lil Dicky's killing it right now. That new video he put out is fucking crazy, man. That shit was inspirational. I got to put out some shit that's fucking creative on that level. I've been slacking on the creative videos recently. I'm about to have some meetings with some of my creative partners and try to come up with some cool ideas. We got Ham.Max, Go. Magnum 1980, which is an awesome name, by the way. We got Petey Machete from Beacon, New York. We got Rotten Smoothie out of Othello, who recommends J Rock's new album. I actually haven't heard that album yet. I heard it was good, but that song they put out with that video with all of them, with all the black hippie dudes, Kendrick and J Rock and them, that shit was amazing, man. It was amazing. So I agree with Rotten Smoothie out of Othello. I don't really know where Othello is. I think that's in Oregon or Washington State. But I could be totally wrong. Could be in fucking wherever Othello from Shakespeare is from. I have no idea. All right, we got Ed from Chicago. What's up, my man? Ed. We got Austin from the Chicago suburbs. We got my man, Chris M. We got BM Craze. We got Mike T, the security guard, and his boy Duffy. Amanda from Baltimore. We got Jaden R. We got TJL. We got my man Bleach Stain, who recommends Dumbfounded vs. Disaster. I actually watched that battle. If you're like, what the fuck is a Dumbfounded vs. Disaster? If you're a first-time listener, you don't know who Dumbfounded or Disaster are. They are battle rappers. Dumbfounded is more than a battle rapper. He's a fucking badass, I don't know what you call it. What's it? A music rapper? I think Disaster makes music too, but I haven't really had a chance to listen to a lot of it. He's primarily known as a battle rapper. But yeah, it was a good battle, man. I actually watched that. I watch all of Dumb's battles. I'm always entertained by it. I like his laid-back style. And it was interesting because Disaster style is the opposite of laid-back. But, man, they both came with it. You can go watch it and be the judge who you think won. But I'm just going to say it's a draw. Little audio error there. I was saying that I'm going to call that battle a draw in my book. More shout-outs. We got Big D. Always a funny name to say. We got Terrell, the hockey player. We got Taylor L. in Canada. Brandon from Connecticut, who recommends Joe Rogan and Joey Diaz. Yeah, I fuck with Joe Rogan and Joey Diaz. Joey Diaz is really funny, man. That dude goes off on some rants. I don't listen to Joe Rogan's podcast that much. People always recommend that to me. I got to get into it. I don't know. I just haven't listened to it that much. I've heard like a lot of snippets of it where he's talking about LSD and shit, but I haven't really listened to a lot of like the whole thing because I know it's like 3 or 4 hours long. And he does it, and that's a little bit long for me. That's what she said to me. We got False Ego. False Ego is a dope producer. He's one of the people who sent me some good beats this week, actually. Who was the other person I probably already gave a shout out to that gave me some shit this week? I don't know if I'm gonna use them or not. I've been kind of on some other shit where I'm trying to kind of go a different route with my beats. I don't even know what I'm doing. My next project's gonna be something with EOM, man. I'm gonna do a whole nother project with EOM. We'll see what happens. But speaking of that, well, first of all, the next shout outs we got Brian P. and we got Marcus M. If you didn't listen to last week's podcast, I got an album coming out. I got my album coming out on October 23rd. I can't believe I didn't actually mention this on the podcast today. Earlier, like today, Wednesday, the 30th of September, I put out a new song. Go to my Twitter, go to my Facebook, or whatever you want to go to, and check it out. A song called Hypnotic. It's just some like kind of old school big rap shit or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Feel free to go check that out. Tell your friends about it if they like that kind of shit. And yeah, so that's off my album. It's coming out October 23rd. The album is called Living Foul. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what else to tell you that I haven't told you on the last podcast. If you want to hear more about it, I put a whole video up about it. Go to my Facebook and just scroll down. You'll see all kinds of fucking shit about it. But yeah, it's going to come out on October 23rd. So that's like 3 weeks or something. So we got Danny from Sheffield started a petition to get his favorite beer back at his local bar. Now, this is a very long URL address, but it's at change.org. So it's change.org/p/underscore university-ling-barring-to-bar-Lincoln. There's no fucking way people are going to remember that. I guess I could just tweet it or something like that. I should just tweet it. I'm going to tweet it right now. Hold up. Hold up a second. Well, it doesn't, actually, you know what? It doesn't make sense to tweet it now. I should tweet it after the podcast comes out. But the thing is, I know myself, man. I'm going to forget. So I am going to tweet it right now. Fuck what makes sense. To all the people out there saying, that doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? You can all kiss my ass. I don't even know if you can hear this right now because I put the mic down. I'm using a handheld mic. Help a podcast listener. Help a wax. It is podcast day. Help a wax's podcast listener. So, all right. Dumb as shit, but, you know, I'm used to being dumb, man. Make sure that works. Now it's tweeted. Now the link is tweeted. If you go to my Twitter, it says help a Wax's podcast listener. I didn't say fellow, did I? Help a Wax's podcast listener. You're helping the homie get his favorite beer. Danny Smith started this petition. He so far has 50 supporters. Bring Carling beer back to the Tower Bar, Lincoln. It is because we all feel strongly about it. It is in both the students and student unions' interests due to a greater level of respect and trust between both parties being founded as a product of this decision. I don't know if that made any sense, but that's what it says. So this guy's trying to get his favorite beer back into his college bar. And, hey, I ain't mad at you for it. So that's now posted. You should go support him just for shits and giggles at the very least. You know, see if we can fucking help him out. See if you can get some supporters down there. All right, Danny from Sheffield. All right. Got a couple questions. I only have a few questions this week, but let's see. This is from Troy from Texas. What up, Wax? Just wanted to tell you that I'm stoked for the new album, of course, and the video for This One's on Me was dope, man. Hopefully you'll read this before 2047. Haha. I had a few questions for you. What had you stray away from religion? I think I talked about this a little earlier. You come off as an agnostic, with wondering what's really up there, and at a point where I'm struggling with faith, Christian. When did you just say, I'll cuss and drink and have sex and do whatever without remorse or regret of upsetting God? Troy from Texas. Troy also recommends the band O-Ren. That's O-Ren, who is from his town in East Texas. And I got to say, man, my bad on this. I didn't actually listen to their stuff yet, but Troy says they have a Pink Floyd kind of vibe, and they just put out their first project. So go check that out. I promise I'll check that out too, Troy. So as far as that's kind of a multi-layered question, because to me there's kind of a difference in like struggling with faith and then cussing and drinking and having sex and whatever without remorse of upsetting God, because like I don't know how upset. First of all, let's start from the beginning. The most obvious thing to me as far as struggling with Christian faith, I think the most obvious thing is that if you're right, if your faith is right and Jesus is Lord and that's what it is, so many other people are wrong. So many, the vast majority of people on earth are wrong. It's your book versus their book. And I actually think that if there's anybody who's going to be wrong, it's the people that are rich and on top. And if there's anybody that's going to be right, it's probably some tribal people that are much more in tune with the earth and spirituality than anybody in a first world country is. There's probably some tribe in the Amazon that actually, like, just God just chills with them. He's like, y'all are my people. Fuck all these. fuck y'all. These are my people. And y'all are the ones that aren't fucking up the earth. Y'all are the ones that actually live great. But you know what happened is all these other people, they found these books that like some guy wrote, and then they just took it as like I said it. And I never said any of this. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I will say agnostic is kind of a good word to describe me. I know agnostic means you believe there's something there, but you don't know what it is. And that would describe my opinion on God. I think that there's something up there that is more intelligent than us, and that had some type of part in the creation of this. And I just think that there's something above us, and I think that what we see around us and the science that we study is much bigger than we think. Like, imagine if Earth, stereotypical analogy, but imagine if Earth was a grain of sand, and we are seeing these other planets, and we're thinking that we're discovering something, but really we're just seeing like a square inch of a grain of sand, and somebody could actually just be walking by on that beach and accidentally step on us, and our entire solar system would just be crushed. They just haven't yet. That's kind of the way I look at it. I think us understanding God, and an analogy I used to use, in my opinion, like us understanding what God is kind of like an actual ant, like a little ant you see in a hill, understanding what the UN is. It's just so far above their level of intellect that it's impossible. And my thing with God too is like, how do we know that God is not more like a child with an ant farm? And a child has an ant farm, and on the first couple of days of having the ant farm, he's like interested in it, maybe putting the ant food in there or whatever you do, but then he just puts it on the shelf and doesn't give a fuck about it. Like, how do we know? My point is, how do we know God loves us? I feel like if God loved us, a lot of things on earth would be different. From big things like not having war, not having people like Hitler, not having all the rich people in charge being evil, to little things like how come fried chicken isn't just healthy? And why don't we fucking crave spinach if that's what our body really needs the most to be healthy? Why do we crave these things that are bad for us? Why doesn't God make it so we don't crave that and we crave good things? And I feel bad because I know you're young and you're struggling yourself. I don't want you to think that I know anything, because for all I know, Christianity could be right. That said, the thing that I always think about now, especially with all these crazy like Republican candidates and how they all have to be saying that they're Christian, and all these right-wing people being super, super pro-capitalist, but also super, super pro-Christian. If you read the Bible, Jesus does not like rich people. One quote from the Bible is he said, the rich man has a better chance of fitting through the hole in a needle, like a sewing needle, than he does of getting into heaven. Like, Jesus hung with poor people and was all about helping out the poor, helping out the homeless. He rolled with the prostitutes. Like, he wasn't into this capitalism thing and fuck welfare and I got to get all this money for myself. Like, whatever is going on with Christianity now is definitely problematic. I'm not saying everywhere is problematic, but the way it's looked at in a lot of sects of America is problematic. I don't, and by the way, like, don't fucking think that anything I say means anything. Don't base your opinion on mine. But just know that the world's a really, really big place. Troy, I know you say you're from a small town in East Texas. I think the first thing you should try to do is take some trips, man. Take some trips to other places in the world. See how things are and see how people think. Go to places where they aren't all Christian. And I'm not saying I'm the most well-traveled man ever, but like, and then ask yourself, like, are all these people wrong? Are all these people going to hell? The only people that are right are these certain types of Christians that I grew up with. I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and I'm gonna get to the pearly gates, and St. Peter's gonna be like, you know what, man, you cuss, drink, have sex, and do whatever. No remorse of upsetting the man behind these gates. You know what? You're going to hell forever. Maybe that's what'll happen, man. Maybe that's what'll happen to me. I have no idea, but that's not what I think. If you ask me realistically, and it's fucking sad, and maybe this is part of the reason that I get depressed and shit. I think when you die, you're fucking done, man. I think that what happens when you die is just like the shit that happened before you were born, and you're just done. I've thought that for a long time, and it's really sad, and I wish I didn't think that. And my mom who's probably listening to this, I had a conversation with her recently where we're kind of talking about this kind of same stuff. And yeah, I wish maybe it's bad for me to think that, but you know, you ask the question, I'm telling you what it is. I kind of think like, first of all, if God's mad about cussing, it's like that's pretty fickle, man. Like a lot of people be cussing. God's mad about drinking. Like, why do you create alcohol? I mean, that's not the way. That's not really true, but didn't I mean, dude. The wine and the fishes, right? I don't think God ever said. I don't think the Bible says anything where you can't drink. Jesus drank. He multiplied the wine. Remember that? Christians were drinking in the Bible. And as far as having sex, you know, like maybe there's no excuse for that. I don't know. They kind of the other side of the coin is that you're only going to be on the earth for a certain amount of time, and it's kind of, you have the option to do interesting things. And one interesting thing you can do is have sex with people. Yeah, I don't know, man. I have no idea. I don't even know. I don't know, dude. So Troy, what I'm saying in short is come live with me and let me be your father. And let me teach you the ways of the world as I know. I'll take you out. I'll just tell you how to cuss and drink and have sex with whoever you want. How about I move on to the next question? This question is from... Fuck, did I not put this person's name? Fuck. Okay, I did get their name. Hey, Wax, longtime fan. Saw you, Dumb, and Anderson .Paak at the Wintervention Tour a while back. You guys put on a hell of a show. Well, thank you, man. Anyways, you probably get sick of these questions, but I'm an aspiring rapper and have been studying hip-hop and working on my first project for a while now, mostly for the fact I'm a perfectionist and won't release it until everything is right, until I feel everything is right. But I've been releasing some songs here and there for the past 7 months and been attempting to book some live shows to get some extra cash and really get my name out there before I put out my freshman project, but I've got no luck. Any suggestions to book live shows? And it would really mean a lot if you checked out some of my music as well, and if you can give me your opinion on it. Thanks in advance, Matt V. He said, I'm 17, so sorry if I sound like Eminem after inhaling helium. I still got to check out some of the music, man. But I will give you some suggestions as far as live shows. I went through that stuff myself when I was your age, when I was 17, 16, whatever, high school. You know, it's hard to book live shows when you're 17, first of all, because you can't even get into a lot of places. Some places you have to be 21 to get in, and then a lot of places you at least have to be 18. So my suggestion to you, rather than being focused on booking shows, like emailing clubs and stuff like that, maybe try to find some artists that are similar to you and put on your own shows. Me and my friends, I was in a band all throughout high school, and I had a few other friends that were musicians. And every single year I was in high school, and like a year or two afterwards, we put on a show called Mayfest. And we just like gather people. We'd gather Like, we got a friend that can do this, a friend that can do that, a friend that can do this. And we just try to fucking tell everybody in the school. We try to tell everybody in the other school down the way, get some bands from the next high school and shit. And, like, it might take a while to do it, but it ended up being a big event. And we always have fun doing it every year. We even managed to make a little cash doing it. And people knew about our band because of it. And my point is, try to plan some of your own shows. I mean, if you're 17, you're probably in high school. Maybe they got some. We used to do the high school talent shows. We did all the fucking talent, any talent show we could find out about in the area. Our band always did. And you're 17, so unless you're fucking incredible, like, the odds of you doing some local talent show and because of that you're gonna just blow the fuck up and be the next Eminem or Jay-Z or whatever are very small. But the point is that you're gonna get practice performing live, which is more valuable at your age than anything else. So I would try to book your own shows, book maybe some talent shows, and then, like, you know, when you get beyond that, when it comes to booking live shows, the biggest thing that people, you know, a place that puts on a show is a place that's a business. So the biggest thing that they want to know is, can you draw people? So if you're sending them an email or sending them your social media or YouTube and shit, they're looking at the view counts. They're looking at the followers. They're looking at all that shit. I was actually I think I was kind of lucky back in the day. We didn't have those kind of metrics. You just send them your music and just be like, yeah, we can bring like 50 people, even if you can't. So you get the show first, and then you try to bring people. And if you don't bring anybody and they don't have you back, at least you did the show, you know. And if you're good, maybe the people who run and be like, you know what, y'all were dope. Like, let's have you back anyway. I'll try to promote it. Blah blah blah. Just lie, man. Lie. Tell them that you can bring more people than you can out to the show. All right. This is a long one. That's what she said. I'm doing that too. That's what she says. And they're pretty much the same joke in this podcast. This one is from Trevor the Clever in Sacramento. That sounds like we got a new thing on Wax's podcast. I am a rapper, so it's not weird that there's a rhyming thing, but let's be honest. This is all based on Nate the Plate. Nate, I still didn't get your email about where you got your name, unless you wrote it sent it in the last 3 or 4 days. So maybe next week. All right. This is actually based on I guess maybe two podcasts ago. Somebody was talking about inbred kids. And this is Trevor the Clever in Sacramento had this to say. The idea that inbred kids will have birth defects is pretty much a myth. I forgot all the citations, but it all stems from an Austrian prince who was a hemophiliac. You know, the disease where your blood doesn't clot, so if you get a cut, you won't stop bleeding. And because all of Europe's royal families are inbred, it was attributed to the inbreeding. The reality is that, yes, successive breeding can lead to health problems. Look at dogs. Every breed of dogs is the result of inbreeding to accentuate certain characteristics, and as a result, each breed tends to have its own special health problems, and mutts are significantly healthier. The English Bulldog, for example, can't give birth naturally anymore. All English Bulldog puppies are birthed through C-section, and they often end up with respiratory problems as they are bred for their short snouts. But we're talking about hundreds, even thousands of generations of inbreeding. One brother and one sister having a kid wouldn't end up with any statistically significant higher chance of birth defects than any other couple. So, hey, thank you, Trevor. So anybody out there thinking about fucking their sister and having a kid, no big whoop. Also, I have some recommendations. The Internet Ego Death is an album that caught me out of nowhere. Just hearing the band name and that they were Odd Future artists, I wrote them off as not for me, but then I heard them on Kinda Neat. I gave them a listen and it's pretty dope, especially the songs Gabby, Under Control, Girl, and Special Affair. I love that song Under Control from that album. I think I've recommended that album. Somebody's recommended the Internet Ego Death album on here before. I agree with that one. That's a really good one. Good, nice laid back vibe. Raz Simone, his whole catalog, 2 albums and 2 EPs are all available for free on his website, but he deserves support. I would recommend his 2 EPs. For a quick overview, Macklemore, Privilege, and Chief on Keef Violence EP and the Simone EP. Did I just get something confused? I don't know if I don't know if those were the names of his EPs or other people's EPs. Dude is intelligent as hell and has a more spoken word flow on his tracks. I first heard of him on his song Natural Resources from South by Southwest and been trying to get Lee to get him on Kinda Neat with no success. Lastly, Tori Kelly Unbreakable Smile. I found her on YouTube back when I was filing traffic after your Bubble Guts video, and they did a video together. This girl is like 22, and before this latest album, which is her first since being signed, she made every aspect of her songs herself and has an insane voice. Even though her debut album is more popish, the songs Talk and Falling Slow show off her more soul R&B style that she's made up till now. Also, the lyrics from the song Unbreakable Smile and Anyway really make me hopeful that my 8-month-old daughter might have a good, famous role model growing up. Wow. That's some interesting perspective right there, Trevor. I think that must really change. That must really change the way you look at society when you have a little daughter like that. Like you're looking all around it, like this is what she's gonna see, and this is what she's gonna think is the way to act, the way to behave, and it's got to be it's got to be scary in this day and age. Not that it was really that different in the 80s and 90s. Like we always had people doing crazy shit. Girls wanted to be Madonna or Kelly Bundy or whoever it was, and they were doing some crazy shit too. And it's just got to be difficult to have a daughter, man, because you know she's going to grow up to be a woman. And one day she's going to be a teenage woman. She's going to have dudes trying to mess with her, you know. So just try to, I guess, make her grow up to be a good person. And P.S., you got to come to SAC. We have a couple venues that put on hip-hop shows. Harlow's and the Ace of Spades. I'd love to crack a beer with you, and I don't even like beer. Well, I appreciate that, Trevor. Hopefully I'll make it up there, man. I plan on doing some touring sometime in the near future. I don't know what's going on with my career and as far as touring goes. I definitely want to do some, but I just don't know exactly when it's going to happen. Like trying to figure out exactly when I'm going to book this shit because it's getting a little late to do it this year, so I might have to do it in like February or something like that. But I definitely want to do another tour. I'm going to see how y'all react to this album. And see if I have enough demand to really get out there on the road and do a ton of shows. And I'm sure. I know that I can go tour, but I'm gonna see what the demand is like. See how this album does. That said, man, when I put out that shit, you know, I'd be appreciative if you guys bought it, you know, rather than you know streaming it. I don't care if you do whatever you fucking want. I don't care. Stream it, and then if you don't like it, you ain't gotta buy it. But I'm going to be selling physical copies. I'm actually going to have vinyl as well. I'm going to have a bunch of other merch to go with it. And sorry if I don't sound super excited right now about talking about my upcoming stuff. It's not because I'm not excited about my upcoming stuff. It's just because, well, first of all, I just talked for a fucking hour. And second of all, like I said earlier, I've just been kind of like a little weird this week. Little weird, little cloudy. Not even because of drugs or alcohol. I've been sober the last couple of days, actually. But trying to kind of stay on that train for a little bit, too. Because, yes, yeah. There's a couple, you know, I was going a little wild there for a little bit. But we're going to try to keep that train rolling a little bit. You know, it's been kind of a weird podcast. Hopefully I didn't depress you too much, especially you, the dude from Troy, from Texas. Hopefully I didn't just fuck your whole world up. But yeah, I think that's it for this week, man. Be safe out there.